The story of this campaign takes place 50 years before Odyssey of Tyros. Out in the land of Kattegat, it's been a harsh winter season. The corrupt jarls of the land have been selfish in withholding food and aid to the citizens, leaving them to fend for themselves as monsters rampage and massacre across the countryside. Rumors have begun to spread of cults rising up in the frozen tundra, creating beautiful sanctuaries from dark and twisted magic. The elves of late have retreated far into the land, showing no remorse or aid to those not of their kin. Word has reached the jarls of a new order rising. They call themselves the Blades, and they seek to replace the current system with a new fair and honest government. The jarls have been on edge. After being unlawfully detained for looking too dangerous, it was within the confines of cold jail cells that we meet our party. Narendal, warlock, male, 5'2", dark-furred satyr with gold eyes and large ivory ram horns. He wears a red cloak that fades to black that is held together by 4 chains and medallion. Upon this medallion is a 5-pointed red crown, and his weapons of choice are 2 scythes. He is very slow to trust, but at the same time those around him should be cautious, for he is the leader of a reclusive but deadly cult, one of 5 factions out there. With the rising regime, Narendal's only mission is the safety and security of the cult, at the same time reluctantly appeasing the deity that had put him in this role. Professor Hugo Malavacqua, artificer, male, 6'1", fair-skinned elf with brown hair, blue eyes, with a thick curled mustache. He wears an emerald green long coat with a scarf and a pair of advanced technological gauntlets. He is also followed by a gold orb that emits a projection of a woman known as Wanda, which he will refer to as his wife. Hugo is highly intelligent and ambitious. He views everyone else as inferior to him. A warlord who seeks to bring the world under his heel with his vast army of machines. Hugo believes he holds the next evolution of magic and is destined to lead the world into the future, by force if he needs to. Lyra Vathraya, ranger, 5'4", fair-skinned woman with light brunette hair that is styled with elven braids. She has green eyes and wears leather gear that befits an outdoorsman. She carries a longbow and 2 scimitars. Lyra is very closed off and hesitates to even disclose anything regarding herself. She claims to have been raised by elves and holds a high respect for them. At the same time, grows concerned when the possibility of encountering them presents itself. For now, that reason remains a mystery. Jellian Stormtear, barbarian, male-looking, 6'2", gelatin with blue translucent skin as well as hair and aged bones dwelling within. Eyes are a pale blue and glow faintly. His hair appears medium length with a braid on the left side of his face as well as a medium length beard and mustache. He has faded tattoos on his left arm that resemble blue roses. He appears very muscular in physique. He wears black leggings and boots that are gilded with brass and studded with blue gems. He wields a katana that is sheathed on his back. In the beginning, Jellian was a man of very few words, only really talking about the bones within his body. He's very naive, however, he does have a good heart. He doesn't mean harm and will try to avoid fighting, but won't hesitate to jump in when there's trouble. Jellian is here for fun and adventure with the party. At the same time, he learns and begins to recall his former life. This is the story so far. The party was originally hired by a blue tiefling known by the name Somewhere to track down a group of missing mercenaries in exchange for their freedom. Primarily their leader, Rafondo. Somewhere didn't care if he was brought back dead or alive. During the time the party was preparing to go on this manhunt, Hugo displayed great interest in fighting adamantium, which Somewhere informed him that the Jarl was in possession of a large amount of it. While heading for the last known location of Rafondo, the party came across a lone farmer who had been dealt a terrible tragedy. His wife and child were brutally murdered by bandits, used as target practice by the archers. The party took pity on the farmer's misfortune. Luckily for them, the bandits that did this was the mercenaries they were tracking down. Somewhere did say he didn't care if they were dead or alive. So the party tracked down the bandits, gave them their retribution, and claimed Rafondo's head. While investigating one of the slain goblins, Narendal found the mark of the Violet Crown, one of the 5 factions that his cult is part of. This was concerning, as it was revealed that this bandit group was secretly working with the Blades to take the city. Naren doesn't know the reason, but going with his gut, this goblin was a possible dissenter. He would later send notice to the leader of the Violet Crown, who he has yet to hear back from. After being caught in a sudden rainstorm for about 9 hours, the party begins to make their way back to the farmer, to let him know the bandits have been dealt with and his family avenged. Along the way, the party comes across one of Professor Hugo's pawn drones. Jellian, quick at the opportunity to catch it, speeds past Naren and Hugo in a full sprint. He tackles the drone but breaks it in the process. Hugo was very upset and attempts to strike Jellian, only to strike the pawn instead and break it further. While Hugo was investigating the drone and the arrows in it, Lyra, confused by the kind of arrows and mistaking them for elven, showed concern about being caught by them. For what reason, she refused to answer. Shortly after, the party is greeted by the galloping of hooves. This spooks Naren, as it could possibly be a horse-riding bounty hunter. He attempted to hide only to find out it was a centaur, who has been hunting the drone that was just discovered. The centaur was named Titus, and was very nice. He offered a warm place for the party to stay as night approached. During that night, Jellian was taking the first watch. It was a full moon that night when he noticed the presence of a large creature. A large white werebear that stood upright on its hind legs. It also carried an adamantium hammer about as big as it was. Jellian, being the almost too nice of a person he was, tried to make friends with the bear. Jellian asked if he could see the hammer, and the bear ended up destroying a tree with it, getting the attention of the rest of the party. It was through Lyra's help that the party recognized the werebear was the farmer they met earlier today. Narendal presented the head of the bandit leader that killed the farmer's family. The werebear emotionally embraced Lyra before returning to his normal form of a Goliath man. He thanked them before disappearing into the woods. Before leaving, Jellian was gifted a bag from Titus. The bag was filled with magical gems that were pried from all of Hugo's drones that the centaur had destroyed. The party then returned to town. They greeted somewhere at the front gate. As they handed off the head of Rafondo, Hugo pulls out the blade note that they had found on him. The note that confirmed the bandits were working for them. Narendal didn't know where Summer's allegiance truly lied, so he swiped the note from Hugo before Summer could notice. Afterward, Summer treated the group to some drinks at a tavern called the Dragon's Hoard. They met the bar owner known as Draco, who was a dragonborn with pegs on his legs, starting at the knee. The party both had drinks, and Jellian got a little too drunk and attempted to sleep with Somewhere. Before heading to the bedrooms of the bar, Jellian confided in Naren and Lyra that he had a flashback while talking with Somewhere earlier. He described seeing himself with skin and a woman with an infant girl in her arms. Naren was a little less than empathetic, but did take an interest in Jellian's revelation. A possibility the two may have a lot more in common than they think. After that, Naren advises Jellian to sleep off the alcohol, and the party heads to their rooms. A few hours into the night, the party's sleep is disturbed by their doors slowly opening and closing. Each time the door opened, a cold front swept into the rooms. The only one who had gotten up to investigate was Jellian. Lyra and Hugo ignored it. After propping open his bedroom door, Jellian goes into the hall only to see that Naren's door wasn't affected. He peers inside to find Naren pacing in the dark room, clearly speaking in a chant. This was some sort of trance. He would not respond to Jellian's advances. Not really knowing what to do about Naren's odd behavior, Jellian, like a twitchy cat, jumps and tackles Naren to the floor. Doing so triggers a vision that they both could see. A void filled with ticking clocks, all stopped on the time of 5:45. Jellian was confused as to what was going on when he bared witness to Narendal's patron upon a black throne. the deity's power lifting him up and causing him to float helplessly in the air. In his mind, Narendal received an order from his patron, the one who waits. His orders were to bring Lyra to the cult and sacrifice her, so the one who waits can ascend to the material plane. Jillian ended up falling onto Naren after the vision faded, waking up Hugo in the process, and he shot a hole in the wall out of reflex. Naren had fully convinced Jillian that what he saw was a dream and had sleepwalked into Naren's room. As Jillian and Naren headed back down to the bar, Hugo, annoyed at the racket at 2 a.m, receives an important alert from Wanda. The alert tells him that his pawn drones had been located and magic was detected. The pawns were sent to the Hells. While the pawns are holding their own against the demonic hordes of Hell itself, Hugo decides to get up and head downstairs. Before that, Jillian and Naren were already at the bar. Naren was about to leave before being talked around by Jillian to staying, especially after revealing the fact that Narendal is 500 years old, unnaturally old for a satyr and yet looks mid-30s for his kind. Jillian is only a month old in comparison and was born in a dungeon. Naren was willing to talk to Jillian as he didn't perceive the gelatin to be much of a threat, at least until Hugo came down the stairs. Naren hesitated, but despite his disdain for Hugo, went ahead and talked about himself, how he was a cult leader and was under a great deal of stress due to the blades showing up. Deep down, Naren just wants to enjoy himself at some point. Later, Hugo decides to show Naren and Jillian this holographic video feed of a bunch of bots fighting demons in hell. Narendal didn't take to it well. Seeing something as advanced as this confused him, but regardless, he knew nothing about what was going on in the Hells right now. Hugo hypothesized that someone was trying to break the walls between the material plane and the Hells. After talking for a while, Jillian decides to go and try and wake up Lyra. He notices the door was locked and decided to punch a hole through the door. Lyra wakes up, startled, and grabs her bow, aiming it for Jillian's face as he peeks through the hole with a goofy smile. He tries to offer her coffee, even though it was 3 a.m. Naren and Hugo didn't care to help her, but Draco, the barkeep, was very adamant in protecting his customers' privacy. At least until Jillian mentioned something about his height, which somewhere told them not to do that, and got hurt by the barkeep. During this time, we got to learn a little bit about Hugo, who is a Strixhaven reject, actually an orphan in his childhood. Hugo's whole ego reminded Naren of someone he knew but couldn't recall his name. Jillian felt empathetic towards Hugo after learning a little bit about his past. Jillian tried to hug him and show comfort while Hugo was not having it. Eventually, he got a hug in on the professor, which Hugo retaliated and punched Jillian in the face. This is when Somewhere returns to the bar. Somewhere has another job for the group. He was very clear on the fact that he is keeping bounty hunters from entering the city that are currently pursuing the party. In exchange, the party must do jobs for him and the Jarl. This next job involved actually going to hell. This was quite a coincidence for the party. The Jarl wanted a certain gold orb that was there and ordered Somewhere to send mercenaries. Naren is suspicious of Somewhere's cluelessness when Hugo presents the footage of his pawns tearing up demons in the rift. All of this was giving him a bad feeling. The party had to wait till morning when Lyra got up before departing. During that time, Jillian stormed outside as he was incredibly bored. As he looked upon the starry night sky, he had another revelation. He had remembered that the Blades had chased him and his family out of their homes. In a desperate act to protect his wife and daughter, he distracted the soldiers while his family went the other way, luring them into a dungeon. As he turned to face them with his katana in hand, ready to fight, Jillian was mysteriously ran through with a sword by an unknown assailant. His body fell into a pit and died before he even hit the bottom. Once Lyra was up, groggy from interrupted sleep, she was filled in on the details of the mission they were given. Somewhere had proposed a safe way of getting the party to hell. He wanted them to head to the town of Driftmark and speak with the mayor, known as Trevor. Summer said that Trevor knows exactly where in the hells this orb is located. Lyra was a little nervous about the job, fearing of encountering someone within the hells. Summer was very optimistic, though, that everything was going to be fine. However, just in case, Summer gifts Lyra a whistle. This whistle will call Summer no matter where she is. He'll come and help out. However, she'll owe him 20 gold each time. After that, the party departs the town. 6 hours later, on the road to Driftmark, the party come across a bit of a roadblock. The road broke off into a clearing, and from the trees on both sides were 2 sleeping frost giants. While the party tried to tread along without waking them, a bandit appears in the clearing. He threatened the party by waking the giants if they didn't hand over their gold. Turned out the bandit, known as Carlos, knew the giants, and they had an agreement. The giants were called Ben and Jerry. Jillian tried to convince Carlos to let them pass, only for it to fail. Carlos spoke up loudly, to which Jerry was the first to wake up from the noise. At that moment, nobody spoke giant. Luckily, Narendal had a ritual that would help in this situation. Naren was able to persuade the giants to not eat them and let them pass. Despite how tempting it was to just hand them Hugo and be done with him, Naren decides not to. The party is now indebted to Naren for getting them out of this situation. Carlos, however, was very upset at the giants, and they didn't like his tone. He is now a red smear in the landscape. The party is now continuing on the road to Driftmark. Welcome back, everyone, to Odyssey Guilty.